Hello! Today we're going to be talking about visualization and creativity. So if you want to learn more about how to visualize and how to use your mind as a powerful tool to be more creative, stick around. Alright, so the story goes, in England, not too long ago, what's her name, J.R. Rowling, was at a train station and she didn't have a pen and she missed her train, so she had to delay her trip and she was stuck there for an hour and she was too shy to ask someone for a pen. And while she was sitting at that train, she started to imagine a wizard boy going to wizarding school. And instead of writing anything down because she didn't have a pen, she took that hour and let her mind just play with as many ideas as she could possibly come up with. And I think that's awesome. Now we all know where she is. She's one of the best, world famous writers. Came up with Harry Potter, changed a lot of people's lives. And that's just one amazing aspect of visualization. Leonardo da Vinci he would first go up to the very highest building he possibly could and he would look out, and then he would go somewhere else and quiet, and he would try to visualize looking down on his cities as if he was a hawk or a bird. And he would just make it all mapped out in his brain, and then he would sketch it freehand, and then sometimes he would paint it. Another thing on the Last Supper with Jesus, when he was painting it, he had such great of a concept on how people look at things that every day when he would go to work on the Last Supper, he would approach the painting from different angles so that he could see exactly how people will see his painting. So he was able to take a step back from his own perspective, and then he would contemplate visualizing how other people were going to see his painting, which is awesome. I think it's just so cool. First of all, the imagining flying over your city from a hawk point of view and then just freehand sketching, that's crazy. That's true visualization practices. Another example is Einstein. When he was at the patent office, he would daydream about time, and he would play out in his mind visualizing, like instead of he did all the hard math and he did a lot of the hardcore questioning in science and everything. He's Einstein, that's what he did. But he said he really had the most breakthroughs when he would just let his imagination run wild. And he would imagine what would happen if two trains were flying at the same speed, if they were both going at the exact same speed of light. And he came up with all these amazing concepts and theories and such. And it's just another, attribute. And the reason we're talking about visualization is for creativity, it's the first step in the creative process. So, and it's so important that it should never be counted as anything other than the starting component. So I might be hypocritical because I'm someone who immediately takes action when I have new ideas. I just do it. Not always, I learned that from my mentors actually. He would have an idea or there'd be an opportunity to make money, and instead of waiting at all, he would just start doing it. Right now, let's do this. But when you're doing a long process or you're thinking creatively, it's important to try and visualize it as much as you can. So, and what I mean by visualizing, it's running concepts through your mind and then seeing which ones really stick and which things stick out to you. And then it's trying to visualize it from all angles. And it's just training your your brain to be as descriptive as possible in your visualizing, okay? And it's very important to write these down, but sometimes you don't have a pen. And it's like, you just want to play it all the way out, start to finish. Okay, so I have these very large sculptures that I'm doing for the city of Lakewood in Colorado. And they want one of them to be Native American themed. And and the faces are hard, whether it's Native American or Caucasian or anybody. They're just hard, especially female faces, and they want a male and a female face. And I have a log, and I've been visualizing how I want it to turn out. And I've been playing with a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas, and I would probably do really good if I had a mold, but I have an image in my mind of an eagle on top with its wings down, and then the first Indian head kind of being a bust from that wing. This is my deal, visualizing though. And the next step is to pull that out of my head and draw it. So, and you can either, if you're not an artistic, then you write it, or you sing it, or you have to, so the first step is visualization, and then you have to manifest it in the most basic way possible. You just have to get the word vomit out of your brain or out into the reality, into the real world, if you want it to become real. So, but I play these these things in my head, and I try and get as detailed as possible. I try and see it in my mind from different angles. I try and think about, well, if I do a bust, how am I going to fit the whole piece here and there, and blah, 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 blah. I'm also starting another business, and I'm fully thinking through the training videos about how I'm going to teach, people from the Philippines or people from the States, how I want these websites to be built. So I'm visualizing myself being super thorough with the videos that I'm going to use to train people. And these are just examples that I currently am doing that I am seeing why the visualization process is so crucial. Okay, but it's really important to write it down afterwards, or draw it, or voice record it, or video record it, because it has to become a real deal, and you have to visualize it, and then you have to start manifesting it pieces by pieces by pieces, drawing it out of you, building it up until it's a real thing in the real world. So, but the first step is visualizing. So let's talk more about that. So I gave you a few examples of what I'm dealing with, or what I'm visualizing, and then I'll take you on the next step of putting it into action. But things that I've read and learned are, it's important to visualize before bed, because if you have a real good image in your mind of what you're trying to build, and then you go to sleep, then your superconscious can begin to work on the kinks and work on the things, and you'll be able to pick that up, and you'll be able to have new insights if you meditate or if you take naps. So before bed, it's super important to do your visualization of the work you're going to do the next day on your project. Okay. It's good to sleep with a pen and paper by your bed, because sometimes you have amazing insights. Actually, a lot of decisions, and I read it in a book, and I heard someone that actually did it while they were in college. But what they would do is, if they had to make a really hard decision in their life, when they would just think about it and think about it and think about it and write, and then they'd go to sleep, and then the second that they woke up, they would ask themselves that question, and whatever first popped into their head, they would immediately write it down, and it was usually what they determined was the right thing to do with their life. And I think that's just cool. So if you're ever going through a really hard time, visualize right before bed, and then as soon as you wake up, ask that question, and whatever the answer you get in your mind, your superconscious has been working on it, and you've brought that out. And I think that's just an interesting way to make decisions. I'm not saying it's here nor there, I just think it's interesting. So visualizing before bed. Another very powerful visualization technique is meditation, where you close your eyes and you get to a quiet place, and then you just visualize for about 20-25 minutes, and then you start working on the project. Just taking time to, think of all the aspects before you go full blast into work. It's very important. So I encourage you to practice visualization. It is the first step in becoming a creative genius and living a creative life. And in any creative process, you have to first see it in your mind. And I guess I'm not done. It's important to be able to hold it in your mind's eye. So when you first come up with the idea, it's important that you let it roll around in your head for a while. Not for very long, but just to let it play out and to be able to hold on to the idea and fully give it life and detail in your mind. That is the real beauty of being able to visualize things. Because once you can hold it in your mind, like your great outcome or your great goal, and then you can start pulling it out into reality, the more likely you are to follow through and to actually create this amazing creative thing that you've been visualizing. So, visualization. Subscribe, like, be creative as fuck. Peace.